They built this whole place downstream from their tents. Horses, dogs, everything. So they do whatever they do in the water, even before it gets down to us. You're seeing a tenth of what we do to it once it gets down here.
They do everything in there. That's why this place has such a stink to it.
Don't worry, you won't notice it after a couple months.
Think they got kids watching us here?
Yeah, Rebs are running out of men. They're robbing the cradle and the grave to guard us.
Hey, Johnny, you got something to eat?
Yeah, I got something to eat.
What you got?
Got 2 ears of corn.
I'll give you $1 for them. Yankee greenback for both ears.
You come over here.
Not me, I'm not coming over there.
Why not?
Because it's the deadline. You'll shoot me if I do.
You want some or not?
All right. Here I come.
Hey, wait. Wait.
You warned him. I warned him.
You know the rules. You all know the rules.
I warned him, Lieutenant.
What do they do, Dick? Shoot you for fun in here?
Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland, 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 oh, Dixieland. Praise God, rally, for this is the time and place. The International Ideal.
They're like, oh, we're gonna check you for bomb residue, and I just laughed. I was like, what?
They whip out the 2 little pieces of like tissue.
Yeah, the little tissue.
And, like wipe them on you.
When I was going to Colorado, they did that to me when we were coming home.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, stand aside." I just stood there. Like, okay.
Yeah, little do
And then
they
I
know.
Googled it, right? As I was putting my shoes back on, I was like, why did they do this to me? I was like, oh, they think that you have a bomb in your bag.
Have you guys ever gotten off a flight and opened your baggage to find out that they checked your bags while it was like behind, and you just get this little note like, we've been through your shit. Now it's a thing. Like when we come back from the States and we get over here and I'm unpacking that night, it's like a thing that Adam and I bet on like how many of the bags have been searched.
Yeah,
I should start collecting them.
My laptop has like a screw loose inside of it somewhere from when they did that to me. So it just jingles when I like turn it.
I've flown so much. I have everything like down to a science now. I just have everything I need and blah, 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 and get through and put the fucking, I hate having to take my shoes off though. That still fucking sucks. That fucking jackass who had to fucking try to blow up the
Start
plane.
wearing slip-on shoes. That's what I did.
I mean, I did, but I don't want to be like the dude with like hairy, nasty feet with flip-flops.
Yeah, you can wear socks. You can get a slip-on shoe and wear socks.
Yeah, I already wear slip-ons. I just don't wear socks. So
I was walking around barefoot on that floor.
I have flight outfits. So like I wear joggers, but I make sure that the joggers don't have any metal tips on them or have metal grommets on them. I have like set t-shirts that are the comfiest that I can wear. I don't wear bras that have any like metal in them or anything. And I have slip-on shoes and I have flying socks. Because I am fucking with getting up and walking around and like on Virgin flights, if you have one of the overnight flights and you're in anything other than the lowest price seats, you get a little bag with like Virgin socks in them.
Oh.
They're the shittiest socks, but you get these little like purple socks and it always feels like such a treat. It's like I got purple socks today. You can walk up and down the aisle in purple socks.
Yeah, I'm the same. When I'm flying, I definitely elastic waistbands and like usually like a tank top and fucking I try to do flip flops. If I have to wear real shoes, I try to find something I can slip in and on really comfortable, like easily. But the funny thing was like so Alabama didn't do that fucking star ID, the real ID thing, whatever, for the longest time. We were like, we're not going to do it, even though like Bush passed it in like 2007. So they were like, you know, bring your passport just in case. So I have the fucking passport card that's also good for like Canada, the Caribbean, and Mexico, right? But like the thing is that I took that picture when I was 24 I had no facial hair and a full head of hair. And now I'm 31 with
and it's all migrated.
I'm bald. And that picture sucks to be groomed. No. So one time the last time I flew to Minneapolis, right? The fucking I gave the TS. I had my driver's license and my concealed carry as like backup IDs, but I fucking gave the TSA agent my passport card, and he looks at it, looks at me, he's like, "Really, man?" He's like, "Really?" I was like, "Man, it's me. I took that picture like 10 years ago. What the fuck do you expect?" I didn't say what the fuck do you expect. It was like, "Oh," I was like, put on my like customer service voice, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. That picture was taken many years ago. I have aged and I am bald now due to male pattern baldness, and I have grown a beard to compensate for my loss of head hair. Here's 3 other IDs that show who I am." Also, it's really fucked up is my full name is really long. And I've had recently Delta's been kind of shitty because like I'll go up to the ticket counter, and I'm not going to say my full name for everyone to listen to, but like my full name has 4 words in it, right? So fucking I'll go up there and be like, "Oh, Nelson, Mr. Jane Caterino, it's only blah 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 blah." I was like, "Yeah, my mom put like all this on my birth certificate. Like, here's my license. There's like 5 different IDs that show my full government name." And just because like one word is missing from my ticket, they're like, "Oh, you might have a problem at the gate." I was like, "Motherfucker, if you give me a problem at the gate, you know what I'm going to say? It's anti-Italian discrimination."
There's the real start of the show. You know, the worst airport that I ever went through was in Wisconsin. It was the worst one.
I don't know.
It was genuinely the worst one. Because, so Adam and I travel all the time. We're used to domestic flights. We're used to international flights. We have this down to a science. We have, like, if he's wearing a belt, that belt is off 3 people before we go through.
It's like a NASCAR
security.
It's like,
yeah, and we know to put his wallet and his belt and his keys in my handbag so that they never get separated. Everything stays together. We have this down so good. When we were coming back through Wisconsin, we're going through with like 50 middle-aged and retired white people who have never gone through airport security in their life. And they're like Midwestern, and they're talking to everybody in line, and my flight is boarding. I can hear it boarding.
Oh, fuck.
And everybody's like, "Oh, you have to take your shoes off too?" And of course they're creaky and old, so they can't bend down far enough to get their shoes off without a chair there.
You got that accent perfectly. "Oh, you gotta take your shoes off too." Yeah, you fucking boomer.
Like, I ran through half of that airport in just my socks, because I had taken my shoes off and I could hear my flight boarding, and was just like running to our gate because it took so long to get, like, I only had like maybe 10 people in front of me, and it took us over an hour because every single one of them had to be told, if you have a laptop, you need to take your laptop out of the bag. You have to take your shoes off. You have to make sure that you don't have more than this much liquid in your bag. If you have a belt, if you have keys, if you have wallets, take them out of your pocket. Like, everything. They had to be told, every single one of them had to be told every single thing, and it took so long to get through, and they all have to talk about it as they do it.
Oh,
so if you're going through a Midwestern airport, give yourself an extra hour, for the love of God.
Wait, I got the icing on the cake for this one. Actually, Tommy, I want to hear about when y'all went to Spain. I bet you guys have some fucking hilarious stories about you guys going to Spain.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Like, so Philadelphia airport is probably like, oh man, like that shit is fucking wild. Okay. So not only did I have to go there, but I had a 12-hour layover, and I was stuck in the Philadelphia airport for 12 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wait, all y'all were stuck there? Because there's a group of you, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All stuck there. So
not enough hoagie shops in the world to deal with that.
No, my God.
So a couple of us went, walking around and wandering around, and apparently like most of the airport is just like, it was empty. Well, at the time it was just empty. Like, it was just desolate, abandoned. It looked like Montgomery Mall.
It's
Like,
fucking
it was-
it's fucking Stephen King's Langoliers. It's just abandoned. The food is tasteless. The drinks are tasteless. They're like, what's happening? For Zoomers, that movie is basically the creepypasta is the back rooms. So Mark, there you go. There's your reference.
Ooh, that was very cultured of you, Nelson.
I don't know how I feel about that.
But we're talking about the movie with the hairy fucking ball sack. That is the villain.
What the fuck movie are you talking about?
The Langoliers.
King's book, the Langoliers, whatever they're called. Yeah, they made a movie out of it. It's like remember when they were making Stephen King movies back in like the 80s, and it was like really bad animation.
It was one of those. It's a time slip movie. That's the whole point. Is it's a time slip movie, and without spoiling anything, because Tommy will have my head. I will say that
what
the monster is a thing called Langoliers, and they are hairy balls in the sky that eat time. So because they're in a time slip, they can see the hairy balls eating time, which is basically the way they show it is like they're eating the sky.
Yeah.
It's
so stupid. I'm sorry?
Is it claymation?
I don't know how.
No, it's like 1990, and it's digitally animated, and they're horrible. They're not even like so bad that it's hilarious. It's more like ugh.
And like Stephen King wrote this shit list on a massive coke binge because he's just like, who would have come up with that? Everything he wrote
was
it's just normal. Yeah.
Anyway, Tommy, what happened when y'all wandering around Philadelphia airport?
Nothing. I mean, we were just wandering a desolate wasteland for 12 hours. Like
and the Langoliers came. So the icing on the cake.
I hate Stephen King. He's awful. Like his writing is so God. He'll spend like 10 hours describing a gas station attendant.
What about the movies? Do you like the movies?
I mean, no, I don't. I just think his writing sucks. I just don't. It's so predictable. It's just that. It's not when you have A24.
This is the difference between people who take stimulants.
God, here it comes.
I was about to say, no, I'm gonna sum up what Tommy's about to say perfectly. This is the difference between people who take psychedelics and people who take stimulants. People who take stimulants like Stephen King. People who take psychedelics like A24.
I feel like that an artist doing that should be exactly the opposite, though. However, Stephen King. So I'm the literary nerd in the group, and I will say that Stephen King has a propensity to write until his knuckles must be bleeding at the end of this. There is no reason for any of these books to be that long.
Because he's on coke. He was on really good blow.
Yeah, like I said, he'll spend 10 pages describing a gas station.
Like when coke
that has nothing to do with anything.
I'm talking about that 80s and 90s yayo from fucking Miami. This guy was on that top tier shit, raking in dough, fucking snorting it up his nose, writing about interdimensional demonic clowns.
So from what I know about the movies that are made about his work, he doesn't like any of the movies really that was made from his work. However, there was one movie that he decided like, fuck it, I'm going to be involved with this one. I don't know if he directed it or if he was directly a producer of it, but it was a movie that I don't remember the name of the book, but it was, it's something stupid like Heavy Metal or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a book where
it's the ones, the trucks.
The trucks. So all of the vehicles in the world turn evil because people are using too much gas.
It's such a good movie. It's
oh my God. And you can tell like how fucking high he was when he was involved. Emilio Estevez is in it. It's like this diner and like a bunch of people, like, so there's like a newly married couple that's fucking horrible, and Emilio Estevez and like a girl that he used to date and like a few other people. And
there's like a Bible salesman.
Yeah. And they're all like stuck in this diner, and all of a sudden like all the trucks that are in the area just start like fucking circling the diner. And for some reason this is scary.
Like the clown one, like the jester 18-wheeler is like the main antagonist.
Oh my God.
So
there's only one killer car movie, only one, and that's Christine. Best killer car movie of all time. Hands down.
Folks can't see this, but Tommy looks like he's about to fall asleep any minute now. I know he's gonna zone out like during this episode and fall asleep, but I'm just waiting for it.
I'm not zoning out. I'm just high as shit and my eyes don't open.
I know.
Nelson, we haven't even done an intro yet.
I know, right? No, so real quick, go back to travel stories before. Also, if any fans out there listening are Stephen King fans and are also fans of the podcast, I would not mind going out like James Caan in Misery Business. If you want a Kathy Bates, break my ankles, please do it.
Misery's pretty fucking scary.
Misery's fucking good.
I will give it to Misery. I forgot he did that. Okay, fuck him, whatever. Misery.
I mean,
Misery's the closest to real life, though.
Misery, Children of the Corn, Pet Cemetery. Those are my top 3 for Stephen King.
Who did Cujo?
That's Stephen King. Oh, I forgot Cujo 4.
Yeah, Cujo's good.
Yeah. You don't want to go down that road. Sometimes that is better. Also, I love how all this shit takes place in Maine.
Yeah, there's a YouTuber I used to watch who had like the Stephen King bingo, and it's like, did it take place in Maine? Is there a heavy-handed reference to religion and how horrible it is? Is there a daddy complex? Is this like, is it all white people? Like, it's just like, it's very predictable. Like, if we're outside of like the Dark Tower, it's like you got Dark Tower, and then you have everything else, and that's it.
So. One of probably the craziest shit flying domestically, I've only flown international once, but flying domestically was the last time I flew out of Atlanta. I stayed at a hotel and then was going to take the shuttle service from the hotel to Hartfield Jackson, right? And I got up, waited for the shuttle, got on the shuttle, right? And the shuttle has to pick up other people from other hotels. The fucking back door of the shuttle fell off the hinges. So we had to get on another shuttle, and then he has to go pick up other people. I think he like left some people. I don't think he gave a shit. And like, we got us to the airport and dropped us off at so Delta has its own like thing at Hartfield Jackson. That's its hub. So like he dropped us off on the other side for like everyone else. And so us Delta people had to like run across the fucking breezeway to fucking the Delta side. And when I tell you this fucking line was wrapped all the way around. It was in places that you didn't think a line was going to be. And like, we literally were herded like cattle and then fucking diverted. The TSA would literally cut the line and then say, all right, everyone go this way. And we would just go this way. I didn't know where the fuck we were going. I was just literally being led like cattle in a fucking slaughterhouse. And finally we get to the end and I'm like, fuck, I'm going to miss my damn flight. But like, it was like literally 5 minutes to boarding, and I got through security, and I had to get to the like one of the faraway terminal whatever's, and like I'm running in flip flops. Fucking the bottom of my feet hurt because I'm running in flip flops, and fucking I was like, God damn it! I told myself when I turned 30 I wasn't gonna run ever again, and I'm fucking running this fucking airport, and I get to the fucking counter, I get to the door, and there's still a little bit of a line to get onto the fucking plane. I'm like, well, I ran for nothing. I'm just like fat and winded and sweating. Like,
I envision an aging frat boy, just flip flops, shorts, tank top, running.
I'm trying to relive my youth. All right.
Hey, we should probably mention that this is our first episode of 2022. Woo! We've done streams. Tommy, you want to talk about our new initiative for 2022, our streaming schedule?
Season 3. Woo! Season 3. What do we have lined up? Okay, so officially every Saturday.
Yes.
Tommy's really high. That's why he's questioning everything.
Yeah.
Were you drinking a Four Loko?
No, I was drinking Woodchuck. It's a Woodchuck cider. Barrel Select 5.5 ABV. Really good, delicious, yummy. I'm on my third one right now. Crack that one open. All right. But yeah. So yeah, every Saturday. At least one of those Saturdays is gonna be games, but it's gonna be mostly React content. and it's going to be great.
And what time are we doing it, Tommy?
Oh, what time are we doing it?
7 p.m. 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. That means it's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because leftists don't know time zones. I have found that out the hard way multiple times.
Yeah. So 7 p.m. Central and 8 p.m. in Nowhere Land. All right.
And if you live in Mountain Time, fuck
5 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific.
If you live in Mountain Time, go fuck yourself.
Nelson's just upset because if you live in Mountain Time, you probably have scenery to look at.
Yeah, it's true. Or you're engulfed by a forest fire.
I mean, so yeah, we got our streams in 2022 every Saturday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Fuck you if you're Mountain Time.
Fuck you if you're in Mountain Time.
Wait, honestly, fuck you if you're Eastern Time, really.
Yeah, anyone, the only cool time zone is Central Time, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and the 4 people who live there.
Right.
There's a reason it's called
Central. Yeah, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, it is 9 o'clock.
You guys are on right wing time. At least we're on Central Time. All right.
That makes California like the leftist time.
Leftist time.
No.
But Nelson, they're such a blue state.
Did you see that meme? Did you see that meme I posted? I live in Portland and all my eggs are brown, but none of my friends are. I wonder why.
Oh.
The Klan. The answer is the Klan.
The answer is yes, Tommy is right. The answer is the Klan and Oregon having a history of white supremacy. A long, violent history of white supremacy. Speaking of white supremacy, we're going to be talking about today in this episode. But Oregon wanted to be a free state and didn't allow slavery because they didn't want black people to live there. That was the reason.
Nelson, for 2022, are we not doing intros anymore?
No, we are. I didn't find it. Usually I say something stupid. Somebody says something catchy, and then I go right into the intro. So I'm gonna.
Here's your chance.
I got it. Kai, you ready? I'm setting it up perfectly. I'm gonna softball this one in. I think that white men get a bad rap.
Me.
All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to Dixieland the Proletariat. We're going to talk about Southern working class history and current events through a leftist perspective. How the fuck are we still here? Make sure to like us on social media at Dixieland the Proletariat, or find all of our links on our link tree at linktree/DixieProl. Where if you want to give your wages to a bunch of rednecks, you'll find the link to our Patreon. We got lots of cool stuff, including CDs, stickers, a cookbook, Discord server, Twitch stream, and exclusive episodes. We also have a Spotify playlist with some great artists y'all should check out, as well as our merch store. And if you don't listen to CDs anymore, Mark has a really good idea. Use them as coasters. This podcast is brought to you by Contraction Monogamy, Therapy, Vaping, Living at Home, Modelo, Kaiser Pushing White Men in the Swamps, Tommy's Herbal Clinic,
and Woodchuck Ciders.
Nelson's Love
the
Life.
Best Ciders brought to you by Vermont.
Tyler's Wild Stories. And Yankees.
Home of Bernie Sanders.
Shout out to our new Patreon subscribers: Perry, Dovin Wolf, John B., Joshua, Thomas, and Gabrielle. Our monthly Patreon surplus goes to groups that are run by and or help marginalized people directly. As always, I'm Nelson with
Season 3. Tommy. Season 3. Yeah. I'm excited. And drunk.
I guess I'm also here.
And so am I.
Tyler, you look so different. Why is your name Mark now?
You're so much younger.
What happened to your accent?
I shaved.
For everyone,
I'm in Eastern Standard Time now, so that's what happened to my accent.
Also, for everyone listening at home, don't worry. Tyler is still part of the podcast. Okay, he hasn't been canceled or killed. He's at home with some family stuff going on. He's still on the podcast since he's the number one host.
That's the most Italian thing you could ever say.
He's
not missing. He hasn't gone anywhere. I swear.
He's not a problem.
My hands are clean. I was here on this podcast today's date and time.
I'm Andrew M. Cuomo, governor in exile in New York.
You're really making him sound like some kind of exiled king. I'm still the king of X country.
He probably thinks that. He's probably sitting at home. Is like, his wife left him, so he's probably just sitting at home by himself in his boxers, probably chilling with his brother. They've got a bumper pool table and a brand new Xbox, and they're just fucking playing games. Like just nacho cheese spilled on the shirt. Fucking like, I'm still living in exile. Chris has just completely lost his mind. And still thinks he's
nacho cheese? Do you mean marinara sauce?
No, whoa.
There's just constantly fucking That's Amore playing in the background.
It's just pizza boxes and like sandwich wrappers just everywhere lying around. Just empty bottles of red wine.
A good crusty piece of bread to scoop that marinara sauce off a shirt.
So how did everybody?
Spaghetti hole.
All right, we got to laugh it up because I think this episode is going to get depressing. It's not as depressing as Kai's residential school episode, but it's going to get kind of depressing. So let's laugh it up for a good bit before we get into people dying.
You want this is another Civil War episode. You want me to be sad about colonizers?
I knew when I was when I went to the fucking museum, when I was reading this book, when I was taking notes. I was every single time I thought about this episode, I was like, Kai is going to say, who cares about colonizers killing colonizers? And I was like, you know what?
I agree.
Nelson, you're the only white man here.
I know. And like, I get it. But okay. Human suffering is bad, but it is kind of funny that, they're fighting over a problem that they created in the first place. They're killing each other over a problem they created in the first place, which is funny. Oh, dysentery.
Good thing we had a good 20-minute intro. We're just talking about fucking travel stories.
No, but how did everyone ring in their New Year's?
I went to a friend's house. And these friends have small children, so they invite me and my husband over because we don't drink. So we're the only ones who can hang out with them and not be weird around their kids, I guess. So we went to their house. We stayed until almost 1 o'clock in the morning because we're over 30 and we do not stay out late anymore.
Hell yeah.
And then we came home and watched TV, and I think we ate Christmas leftovers and then went to bed.
Mark, what'd you do?
Absolutely nothing.
Woo!
Yeah. What am I going to do in the South where everyone's getting sick? I worked the day after.
Yay!
Nothing special.
Tommy, what'd you do?
I can't talk about the things that I did, but I had a good.
I laid in bed and talked to people on Instagram.
Word. Well, you guys are lame as always, and I had a great
conversation with a fan, and then Tommy made fun of me because he said I'm going to end up like fucking Aziz. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, the next day on New Year's Day we had a pretty good stream session.
Yeah,
I can't remember which one that was.
Oh yeah.
Then I looked up what happened with Aziz. I'm sorry. Fuck you, Tommy. Dude, so fucking awkward.
Yeah, that's you. That's gonna be you.
It's not gonna be me.
Yeah, 100%.
You're asking for thirsty fans to come after you. This is not gonna end well.
Listen, as the episodes are listened to, or I tell everyone I'm now single, hey, what am I gonna do? It's not. It's literally it. Yeah.
Oh god.
So lonely. We have some great fans that I talk to on Instagram and would like to meet a lot. I wish we could have a fan meetup. It'd be really cool because we got a lot of cool fans that really like us. It'd be nice to it'd be really cool if we could ever do that. No, just shake your head. I don't like meeting people. I'm telling you. Wait a moment
I did
here.
that in complete silence, but I'm literally going to travel from Georgia to your home and spend several nights in your home. But oh no, I don't want to.
No, it's time to out Nelson here. But I remember saying, anybody who's been following the saga of when I'm finally getting home to Florida, the trip that everybody from North, no, I'm not saying that it was anybody's fault. But the people that were supposed to be coming south to Florida cannot do that anymore. So me and my husband are going North Alabama to see everybody for the weekend. But when they still thought they were coming to Florida, I said, hey, there's a few Florida fans. Maybe we could do a meetup or something at one of the public places. And who said, I don't want to hang out with fans? That'd be you, Nelson.
I don't want to hang out with them.
Wait a minute. So you just don't like Florida fans, or?
No, I don't know. I changed my mind like I changed clothes. Okay, did you listen to the Katy Perry song? I'm hot and I'm cold. I'm yes and I'm no. Just depends. Depends on what.
No, we don't like Katy Perry.
I actually hang out with Eli a couple times. He's pretty cool. E-brand, shout out to you, man. See you at cruise sometime.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'd be really cool to have a fan meetup.
Yeah. Wait, was he the one that came over and spilled shit on your bed, right?
Like you don't?
First, no, I'm just saying the first time
you shit in my bed. Like,
I do. I take big old hot steamy dumps in Tommy's bed as payback for all the torture, and I leave him in there. I roll him up like a burrito.
I fucking hate this place.
Welcome to my hell.
Speaking of which, it brings me to a very disturbing poll that I recently found out. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it
Please
up.
shoot your shot on social media to me. Mark, I hope you know I'm doing like a deep clean of my place, and like it's gonna like it's gonna be like spotless and nice and clean. I'm gonna have like everything ready for when you get here. Okay, it's gonna be I'm gonna try my best to be a good host.
Wait,
cool.
so
Oh, go ahead.
Are you staying with Nelson, or are you staying with Nelson's mom?
I was just gonna say, get ready for my voice to be up an octave every time I talk to your mom, because I will go into that customer service thing where I'm completely uncomfortable, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it's just
cool.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Mark. It's nice to meet you. Your hair is so pretty.
You want some? Keep going higher and higher.
No, that's my mother talking to you. Do you want some cheese? I have some cheese for you.
And wine.
And wine. Literally, Tommy vouched for this. Literally, every time he's like, want some cheese? Tommy, what are you gonna say?
Is that when I show up and be like, I'm sorry, I'm lactose intolerant and we don't drink, so
I can vibe with some cheese.
I'm gonna have to be like, Mom, just because Kai is indigenous, you don't have to bring up Sacagawea every 5 fucking minutes.
Look, your mom is cool with land back, so I'm cool with your mom no matter what.
It was so fucking funny.
Oh yeah, you'll really like his mom. Not as much as I like his mom.
Oh my god, Tommy, what were you gonna? You were gonna say something? Or did you forget?
Huh? No. Oh yeah, you shitting in my bed reminded me of this very disturbing poll that apparently 79% of people wipe sitting, and
oh my god,
I remember this coming up in the fucking chat, and then I blocked you guys.
I have a bidet.
Listen, I had no idea. I'm very.
That just makes me uncomfortable to know, Nelson.
So my ass is clean. Okay, sorry. I like to practice good hygiene.
No, it's the shot of water. It makes me uncomfortable knowing that happens to you.
Well, you need that, so I'm glad that
I do.
Invested in that.
Hey, remember when this episode was about war crimes?
Anyway, yeah, this episode's about war crimes. Anyway, Tommy, you want to go ahead and turn on Gears of War and start playing? I'm just gonna go ahead and give you that. Because I know you're not gonna.
It's another Civil War episode. Tommy's gone.
Why the fuck do I care? All right, Lincoln won the Civil War. Okay, I get it.
Single-handedly, he came in riding a bear, wielding a machine gun,
fighting the vampires.
and then he said, "All the black people are all right with me," and that was it. That was the end of the war.
And then the vampire killed him at the very end at the theater. The last vampire, before they were banished to the rest of the world.
Who asked for this episode?
I did.
Okay,
because my boomer aesthetic.
We're still trying to maintain the veneer that this is an educational show sometimes.
Oh,
anyway,
that's right. All right, I guess we're about to learn something. Oh.
Today's episode, y'all, is on the prison camp at Andersonville, the most notorious Confederate POW camp. And
wait. Is this where you were when you were ignoring everybody?
Yes, this is where I was when I was trying to find my happy place amongst all the dead soldiers.
Oh, my God.
The day that he came into the chat and just ripped the ass out of all of us.
Yeah.
And then I had to follow him and be like, Nelson, are you okay?
I'm trying to be a boomer. Anyway, I was just going to read this book to y'all, but I actually took notes and decided to be to do that instead of actually reading this whole book out to y'all. So anyway, yes, we're going to be talking about the prison camp at Andersonville, site of one of the most horrific war crimes during the Civil War, where brother versus brother, colonizer versus colonizer, settler versus settler fought each other until 1863. And then we dragged black people into it so they could die for colonizers too. And I quote here, General Orders number 100, April 1863. A prisoner of war is subject to no punishment for being a public enemy, nor is any revenge wreaked upon him by the intentional infliction, of any suffering or disgrace by cruel imprisonment, want of food, by mutilation, death, or any other barbarity. Also, I'm going to be doing a lot of dates throughout this because I want people to understand everything that took place in such a small amount of time. But just like Kai does, I want to go back a little bit to set the mood.
I'm sorry, am I the meme at this point?
You have to set the Civil War mood.
To set the Civil War mood. I need fiddle music playing in the background for Ken Burns.
Okay. I'll make sure I add that in post.
Thank you. All right, y'all. So
soft and slow, very Southern accent. Come on, do it up.
No, I know I have quotes from Lee and people that I'm gonna do in a Southern accent.
There we go. All right.
All right. So
the man with the Southern accent is gonna do a Southern accent. Okay.
So
let's go.
So the outbreak of the war, there's no formal agreement or deal to deal with enemy soldiers. The Union didn't want to recognize the Confederacy, so they thought giving POW statuses would legitimize the Confederacy. And basically at the outbreak, because they thought the war was going to be very quick, Lincoln and the Union basically said, we're going to shoot rebels for treason if they get caught. Then, after the Battle of Bull Run in July of 1861, over 2,000 Union troops were captured, and Lincoln had to reconsider. An uneasy agreement of paroling was negotiated by field commanders, and makeshift POW camps were set up. In early 1862, both sides met to try and formalize some sort of prisoner exchange. At this time, the Confederacy had more Union prisoners. However, that changed after 12,000 Confederates surrendered at Fort Donelson in Tennessee, and the Union at that time then held more Confederate prisoners. Edwin Stanton, the Secretary of War, didn't want to give up this advantage when it came to negotiating. So on July 22nd, they reconvened 1862 to make a formal agreement signed and basically came up with prisoner exchange program.
So
At the end of
just slave trading.
Yeah, we'll go with that. It's all based on the War of 1812, and they're like, oh, we'll trade you, 10 privates for a lieutenant and shit like that. Because they didn't want to house all these POWs. But that's going to change because racism, basically. By the end of 1862, commanders were literally bypassing this. They just simply, because everything was so chaotic, the fronts kept changing. They just bypassed this agreement and just simply paroled prisoners and sent them home. Prisoners on both sides basically went back to their units. So what that means is so if you're captured, you become a prisoner of war, they parole you and tell you to, oh yeah, go home and wait to be exchanged for like other prisoners. And the POWs are like, yeah, sure, cool. And they literally just would go back to their sides. They were like, fuck you, we're gonna do what we want. So that wasn't working out. But in 1863, everything changed with the Emancipation Proclamation. So January 1st, 1863, black men started enlisting in the Union. They signed up by the thousands. And the Confederates say this is bullshit. And they said that black troops and their white officers were not eligible for exchange. Instead, they were going to be sent to southern states for prosecution, enslavement, or execution. So basically, the white officers would be executed and the black Union troops would be enslaved, even if they were always freemen, or if they were escaped runaway slaves that joined the Union, they would be re-enslaved. If they were freemen, they would be enslaved. White officers would be shot. So Lincoln was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And issued the Lieber Code, which was the General Order 100 that I read at the beginning. The Confederate government said, no, we're not going to abide by this. But at this time, because they weren't a lot of black POWs, it was kind of like, up in the air. They were like, we'll wait and see what happens. However, by the end of 1863, black POWs started to grow. So there's more and more black men enlisted in the Union Army, and they were getting captured if they weren't executed, which is another war crime we can do an episode on. The problem grew because the Confederacy already said what they were going to do to them. So basically, then what happens is, let's turn to, I got more quotes. You have General Order 252, July of 1863. The Union Army basically said, it is the duty of every government to give protection to its citizens of whatever class, color, or condition, and especially to those who are duly organized as soldiers in public service. The government of the United States will give the same protection to all its soldiers, and if the enemy shall sell or enslave anyone because of his color or offense, because of his color, the offense shall be punished by retaliation upon the enemy's prisoners in our possession. So, prisoner exchange in 1863 just completely collapses because of the Confederacy's policy of black POWs. So that's going to make sense in the end when people try to rehabilitate the commandant of Andersonville and say that, like, oh, he had no choice, blah, blah, blah. There's other examples of why that's bullshit, but the Confederacy brought this upon themselves because of their racist bullshit, because the war was fought over slavery and white supremacy, not states' rights or any other bullshit that lost cause Confederate apologists want to bring up. So POW camps started to literally explode with men on both sides, and not in the good way. The Union was definitely more equipped to handle. the Union was definitely more equipped to handle.
Do you want to explain to me how you can explode with inmates in a good way first?
Yeah. I don't know.
This just got uncomfortable.
But anyway, so it's going to get way more uncomfortable. So basically, the Union was definitely more equipped to handle this because of better infrastructure than the Confederacy. And the Confederacy started setting up POW camps in Richmond and in Virginia because that was where they had the most infrastructure and better facilities and things like that. So basically what happens is the POW camp in Richmond, the civilians and the military start really getting nervous about all these Yankees that are imprisoned in Richmond. And here we have a passage from Robert E. Lee talking about this now here. I'm gonna read this passage from General Lee. I would respectfully suggest that the city of Richmond is not a suitable place for the accommodation and safekeeping of these prisoners. I think the presence of a large number there is, for many reasons, very injurious. And it increases largely the amount of supplies to be transported to the city and thus employs transportation which might be used for the benefit of the citizens. This has a tendency to increase prices and cause distress among the poor classes. So Lee was just like, we got to get these fucking Yankee prisoners out of here because, there's way too many of them. They're going to riot and rebel and we're going to lose our fucking capital. So Richmond couldn't support itself or the army or the prisoners. So in November 24th, 1863, Confederate Secretary of War James Seaton told Captain William Sidney Winder to find a location in southwest Georgia for a POW camp. And that brings us to Andersonville. And I have another quote here. I really like this book that I got.
This is when you hit it with a sting of like swelling violin music.
Okay. Yeah. It will not be long. Many of the Yankee prisoners now confined in Belle Isle will have the opportunity to breathe the southern air. The government having had selection of a spot in Georgia near Andersonville, Sumter County, for their reception and safekeeping. Their present place of confinement being rather overcrowded. The location is on the Southwestern Railroad between Oglethorpe and Americus. There was no difficulty shall be encountered in supplying their wants, which was absolute bullshit, which we'll find out later. So in January 1864, they start building. So basically, a little backstory is the Impressment Act of 1863 said that Confederate citizens had to send, I found this hilarious that they called it a tithe, but it's 10% tithe to the Confederate war effort, which included slaves, food, basically anything they had. They had to get 10% to the war effort. So 900 slaves took weeks to build basically the Andersonville prison. They had to clear pine trees, dig ditches, and set the 15-foot high stockade wall. So that's basically the wall of the prison. And when you go there, it's like massive, big, like fucking telephone poles almost with little tiny spaces in between. And it's very it's crazy just looking at it. You can just like feel the despair just staring at that shit every day. There was one, it was only planned to hold 10,000 POWs. Now, please remember the 10,000 because it's not going to stay that for long. In 16 acres. There was one creek that flowed through the camp for water. There were 2 gates, gun emplacements, guard towers, and the gun emplacements were designed that they could be used to sweep the camp in case of riot or mass escape. The Union's failed invasion of Jacksonville, Florida, in February 20th, 1864, saw the first POW sent to Andersonville. Should be noted that a lot of the black troops that participated in the failed invasion were actually executed while surrendering. And some 200 Union troops from that failed invasion were captured alive. On February 24th, 1864, they arrived at Andersonville along with their cannons, which ironically would be used as the gun emplacements. And at the time, so the gun emplacements, a total of 400 POWs at Andersonville at this time. Many of them died of diseases such as smallpox, like when they first got there, because they're already sick. Like I said, the 200 came from the failed invasion. The other 200 were from other POW camps, and they already had smallpox and other diseases, and they were in really horrible shape by the time they got there. Over the next month, this expanded to thousands. So here comes in Captain Henry Ritz. He's a commandant of Andersonville. He began working there as a commandant on March 27th, 1864. And he spent his entire career in the Confederate prison system, POW camps. That's basically all he did. From private to captain, he just ran camps. So he had a very vast experience with dealing with POWs. And he wasn't some rookie that didn't know what he was doing. He was a hardened commandant. He knew what he was doing, and it's going to show why that's a problem later on. The camp itself had a very complex, horrible, messed up bureaucracy. So basically, Captain Ritz was in charge of the prisoners and life inside the camp. Captain Winder was in charge of supplies and food for day-to-day operations. The chief surgeon was in charge of the hospital, and then there was a Lieutenant Colonel Person and later on Colonel Gibbs was in charge of the guards and the troops. So you had basically all these people trying to fight for supplies and scraps, and it got worse as the war went on. When Henry Ritz gets there, he institutes the deadline. So basically, because there were going to be thousands of people in this open-air prison, he instituted the deadline. So basically, you have the wall, which is the 15-foot high wall, and then a few feet inward, you have basically it's like a small wooden fence. And if you were to like touch that or go over it, you were shot. No questions asked. The guards would shoot you dead. Your body was left there until they went around and started collecting dead bodies. Like, no questions asked. You touched it, you crossed it, done. So eventually, the guards at Andersonville were replaced by basically with old men and boys, because a lot of the troops that were stationed there had to go fight, especially when Sherman marches through Tennessee and starts going into Georgia. They basically just left with boys and old men guarding these, what ends up being thousands of POWs. And supplies were extremely, extremely hard to get. We'll go into that later. So here's some numbers that I want everyone to keep in mind. May 1st, 1864. So we're literally just a few months into this camp being operational. It's already hit its max at 10,000, right? 1 month later, June 1st, 1864, 19,000. So it swells in a month by 9,000 prisoners. The hospital was completely overcrowded with 600 men. And this quote, like, about the hospital is probably one of the worst things I read. So this is a letter from Private Dorrance Atwater, from the 2nd New York Cavalry. About the middle of May, I was admitted to the hospital, which was then in the northeast corner of the stockade, which is inside the camp. Here, tent and tent flies were erected. I should think they contained about 800 patients. So that's basically these little tents were set up, and they had 800 patients in this hospital, right? This outdoor open air hospital. Pine straw was the only thing the sick had to lie upon. Here I witnessed the painful, lingering death of my comrade, Sergeant Donnelly, who actually starved to death. His body and features were contracted, shriveled, and dried previous to his death, like those of Egyptian mummies that I had seen in museums. And his was not the only case. Hundreds of others whom I did not personally know died in the same way. During the 4 weeks I was in the hospital, 27 men died in the tent with me, in which there were only 8 patients at one time. So basically, you have 8 patients and then like 27 just dead bodies chilling there. By the end of May, so this is just the hospital. In May 1864, the hospital was actually moved outside the camp, because by the end of May, 1,500 are dead and another 1,000 are in the hospital. So basically, but we have prison life. When you get there, you walk through the gate, which I actually did walk through the gate. It's very intimidating. It's like you walk in the one gate, there's like an area, and you looking up at the guard towers, and you walk to another area, and then you come into what was the camp. You had to make your own shelter. There's very little supply, so any wood, clothing, some people dug holes and just slept in holes. These little tiny tents that they would make, like hooches, and it was absolutely horrifying to think, like, the pouring rain and the snow in the wintertime and the heat. If anyone's been in Georgia or in the South during the summer, you know how just disgustingly horrible this is. Packed thousands of people in there with only one source of water. It smelled horrible. So for food, they were given 1.5 pints of coarse cornmeal, 2 ounces of musty bacon, and a pinch of salt and thin soup. Sometimes the food was actually given to them raw, and they were expected to find some way to cook it. Since buckets couldn't be acquired, most prisoners had to use their hats, shoes, or their bare hands to get the food. So you have little prisoners like trying to hold out their hands to get the soup, or like anything they could use to get this food. Food and care packages were sent, and this is probably one of the most damning things that Ritz did, and one of the main reasons why he got the punishment he got is because food and care packages were sent by POWs' families and aid groups, but they were kept by Henry Ritz and the guards and left to rot. There's actually quotes in this book where a chaplain noticed just buildings just full of just rotten meat and fruit and vegetables, all these things these people's families and aid groups sent to the POWs was just left to rot. And the guards were seen wearing a lot of the shoes and clothes that were meant for the POWs. So basically what's happening is that you go into Andersonville, what you have when you were captured, if you were shot and wounded, you're going in shot and wounded, you're probably not going to get help. You're going in with the clothes on your back, and those clothes are supposed to last you the entire time you're there. So basically it broke down to people walking around naked because they just didn't have any clothes to wear. So in the freezing cold and the hot sun, that's basically what ends up happening to a lot of these prisoners at Andersonville. So Ritz used to withhold rations as punishment, as well as he had like the shackles and the like stockades as we think of them, where prisoners were kept for days on days, just like left there. The prison had to expand. So in June 1864, 25,000 POWs were crammed into 16 acres. So they had to add 10 acres onto this. So July 1st, 1864, the camp is now 26 acres, 25,000 men. POWs used the old wall to build housing and to use it for fire to cook. And Ritz didn't like this, and he withheld rations for 2 days. So you already have emaciated men being withheld food for another 2 days. When the rations were resumed, it was noted that a lot of it was moldy and the meat was infected with maggots. Within the prison itself, there was a black market because people would bring stuff in from the outside and somehow slip it through the gates. A lot of POWs came with Union money, greenbacks, that were worth a lot more than the Confederate currency. So they would barter and trade with the guards to try to get stuff, and especially try to mail their letters out, because a lot of times their letters wouldn't leave the camp. And they started to realize that like the mail wasn't coming in. So they would try to bribe the guards to mail stuff for them. Because of this, prison POW gangs started popping up. The most notorious of these were the Raiders. And basically what the Raiders did is they literally stole, extort, and killed other POWs in order to get things that they wanted. And the new POWs were robbed first. Like they would come in, they'd be like, "What's going on?" And like someone would like greet them really nicely, bring them over to the side, and they would just like, you know, just ambush them and take all this shit and tell them to leave. By July 1864, a lot of the POWs had had enough, and they organized a resistance, and they attacked the Raiders and arrested, like citizens arrested 75 of them. Henry Ritz allowed them to like hold a trial, which lasted 48 hours. Dozens of the Raiders were found guilty and had to run the gauntlet of POWs with clubs and sticks. And 6 were sentenced to death and actually hanged in the camp, and their bodies were dumped away from the cemetery, where at this time, 3,100 POWs are already buried in the graveyard. By August 1864, 33,000 POWs, or more than 3 times the intended capacity, were at Andersonville. There was no clean water. So when you're there, there's one creek, like I said, that flows through Andersonville, right? And in the infinite wisdom, the people who designed this camp were like, oh, like the prisoners will, you know, bathe downstream and they can collect fresh water upstream and it'll be fine. And because that went out the fucking window like day one, it became stagnant, and the prisoners literally pissed, bathed, defecated, drank out of this same watering source because there was no other water in the camp unless it rained. Food and medical supplies were dwindling, and Ritz was known to withhold, like I said, food and medical supplies for punishment, or just basically because it's a bureaucratic nightmare and it's just a mess, is due to mismanagement. Burying the dead was like this. So Private Atwater actually secretly copied the names of the dead, and he has a quote here on this page. Let me find it real quick about describing like how they would bury the dead. So when a prisoner died, his name, if known, was written on a slip of paper and pinned to any article of clothing he might have on. And the body was then carried to the dead house. From the dead house, the corpses were piled on a wagon and were then driven to their last resting place. The cemetery was nearly half a mile north of the stockade. The burying was under the immediate supervision of Alonzo Avery, who was a member of the 9th Minnesota Volunteers and a prisoner. He had a squad of black prisoners to assist in digging and filling the trenches. The manner of burying was to dig long trenches 6 feet wide and 4 feet deep, with a 6-foot space between trenches. The bodies were placed side by side, as each one was placed in position The paper containing the name was inscribed with a number of his grave and the date of death. At the same time, a stake was numbered to correspond and laid on the ground above the body. These papers were handed in each evening to Mr. Atwater, who copied them in the death register, name, number, and date, so that if anyone should ever wish to remove their friends, they could do so. That's from Private Hyde of the 17th Ohio Infantry. In August, this is a crazy fucking statistic, right? In August, you had 100 POWs dying every day. 3,000 died in August of 1864. In that 1 month at Andersonville, August, right? That 1 month was deadlier than most Civil War prisons throughout the entire war. So you had 3,000 people dying in 1 month, which was more than most Civil War prisons had the entire war. That's how bad it was. So basically, the men were dying of scurvy, dysentery, diarrhea, and smallpox. Those are the main ways that people died at the camp. So with the fall comes Sherman taking Atlanta on September 2nd, 1864, and the camp was started to be evacuated from POWs because they thought that Sherman and his men were going to liberate Andersonville because there were so many men there. And it started to kind of trickle out like how bad it was, but not really. But they thought that like that would be one of the first places that would get liberated. So 17,000 POWs were sent to Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. By the end of September, 7,000 POWs were left at the camp. And these numbers really vary because I know like in 1864 was 33,000, but then so many die that's why the numbers are so just weird. So 7,000 are left at Andersonville at the end of September. The many who were left were the sickest of the sick. And between September and October 1864, the death rate skyrocketed, with 2,600 dying in September alone. When winter set in, and by November, 200 POWs remained in the camp, while 1,000 remained in the hospital. At this time, 12,000 were buried in the cemetery. And what I say here? Oh, yeah. Ironically, as Sherman reached Savannah between December 23rd and December 26th, POWs started to arrive again at Andersonville, sometimes for the second time. So the ones that left Andersonville to go to Savannah had to be taken from Savannah and sent back to Andersonville. And I can't even imagine like leaving Andersonville and then having to fucking come back to Andersonville. So they said only 500 POWs died from January 1st to May 5th, 1865. However, in March 1865, Captain Ritz began to transfer POWs to Vicksburg, Mississippi. And I didn't know about what I'm about to talk about. I had no idea this fucking happened. And it just shows like just the hell that these people went through. Because on April 27th, 1865, these POWs were loaded onto the overcrowded steamboat, the Salanta, and it exploded on the Mississippi River, just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. 1,500 men died. Many were recently paroled from Andersonville and Cahaba Prison. It is the greatest maritime disaster in U.S. history, with more people dying than on the Titanic. So they literally left Andersonville to go die on this fucking steamboat. Then on May 5th, 1865, the records at Andersonville stop and the prison is cleared. Now we have the aftermath. So I'm just going to run through some more stuff. So originally, like I said, Andersonville was only supposed to hold 10,000 POWs. By the end, the total number of POWs that were at Andersonville, like I said, at one time they had 33,000. The population was 48,000. That's how many people passed through the gates at Andersonville. Within 14 months of operation, 14 months, right? 13,900 POWs died in 14 months. Captain Ritz was captured after pictures and articles were written about the horrors of Andersonville. Ritz was tried, convicted, and hanged in D.C. on November 10th, 1865. And Captain Henry Ritz is the only officer of the Confederate military to have been executed for war crimes. There was one other Confederate guerrilla captain or whatever, but he wasn't a regular. He was did guerrilla raids and whatnot. Because of atrocities he committed, he was executed. But a formal officer, the only one to be tried, convicted, executed, was Henry Ritz because of the horrors that happened at Andersonville. So if anyone is able to get to the National POW Museum in Andersonville, Georgia, check it out. There's actually a lot more interactive than I thought it was going to be. The camp itself, they've had some of the wall is still up that they put back up. They show you like where the POWs had to stay, and they have like the gate where you walk in at. One interesting thing that happened was Henry Ritz made the POWs dig to try to find new water sources. And they actually, the story goes that one night during a thunderstorm, lightning hit the ground and a well just erupted with water. So at the very end, there was an artesian well that is still there today. It's like they built a memorial around it. It's called Providence. And it was for the last few months, like just a godsend that a lot of the POWs said, because it was the only clean water to drink because the creek was just completely corrupted. But yeah, that is the story of Andersonville. It's horrible. And when you're there, you don't realize how fucking big this place was until you like stand in the middle of it. And it's not flat, right? It's like starts off like this and then dips down into the creek and then kind of rises back up. So there's no really like level ground. And just trying to picture like all these people packed in, trying to find a place to sleep, to stay, it is absolutely horrifying. And some of the pictures that they show of when they finally like got the pictures of the prisoners that were in the camp, they're just completely emaciated, just skin and bones. It's like what we would see later on when we got pictures out of Nazi concentration camps. Like just literally skeletons with skin staggering around. It's absolutely horrible. So yeah, that is the story of the prison camp of Andersonville. I think everyone should definitely look at it more. There's a made-for-TV movie about it that was supposed to be a series that they actually just combined all into a movie. I think it's free on YouTube, but definitely check it out. It's actually pretty good. But yeah, that's the story. So what do you think, guys? What do you think, y'all?
That's your happy place?
You
went to find your happy place among 13,000 dead?
I shouldn't say happy place. I just like historical stuff like this, and I really wanted to go to it.
That's why you can answer your phone.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's why.
He was just immersed. There's nothing wrong with that.
I didn't want to be one of those people walking around this place, like talking on the phone, like, "Hey, Tommy," this like hollowed ground, like, "Hey."
Hallowed ground, did you say? Yes. Hallowed ground.
Look, God saw fit to strike a well into the ground after the majority of people had already died.
I know.
God
right?
saw fit to strike a well into the ground.
I was like, y'all. I was like, you poor bastards. I mean, I couldn't even imagine, like, I don't know, just starving to death and fucking dysentery, just fucking God, send water. And it's just like, oh, here's some water. It's like after 13,000 people have already died. It's like, oh, now I'm going to send water. It's definitely God. No, it's these fucking idiots that designed this place fucking dammed up most of the water going into the fucking camp. And they only had that one creek. If they would have let the water flow like it was supposed to naturally, they would have had more water. It is literally just incompetence at the top level. And anyone, like the Daughters of Confederacy tried to like rehabilitate Henry Ritz, and a lot of lost causers were like, oh, he was, just dealt a bad hand and he shouldn't have been executed and blah, blah. They're like, this guy withheld food from people. He tortured people. He had people killed. He fucking kept their food and their clothes and all this shit that like these aid networks were trying to get to them. Like he tortured these men to death, and he deserved to be fucking hanged. Like fuck him.
It's just I can't help but see like parallels with like the modern kind of prison system where you systematically dehumanize and deprive people of basic needs to the point that they feel that they have to compete with each other just to survive. And that makes people on the outside, or like that allows a narrative to be built on the outside that it's the prisoners who are the animals. They're these horrible people who will just, kill somebody for the shirt off their back when they don't have a shirt to begin with. So, it's just, the age old problem of dehumanizing to the point that, it doesn't matter if this creature lives or dies because, you just don't care that it's a human anymore.
And like you throw 33, like at one time, like I said, 33,000 men in this open air prison, and don't give them food and clean water. Like, what the fuck you think they're gonna do? They gotta survive. They're literally like trying to steal, rob, beat the shit out of each other and kill each other to try to survive. Like, what do you think's gonna? It literally turns into, I hate to use the analogy, but Lord of the Flies. Like, the Raiders banded together and they ran the show and they did horrible things, but like it's all Henry Ritz's fault. And like the people who ran that camp made the conditions for all of this bad shit to happen that shouldn't have happened. Because if Henry Ritz would have let the prisoners would have built them, like if they would have had like better water conditions, right? Better water supply, which could have easily been done. If they would have had like a little bit better shelter, and basically if they just would have let the aid organizations and the care packages get to these POWs, a lot of them still would have died, but it wouldn't have been at the astronomical numbers that it became. Like 100 people dying, a day, 700 a week, like 3,000 in 1 month. They said it was more than any other fucking POW camp of the entire war. This is 14 months. 13,900 people died.
White on white crime at its highest.
I know, right? This is white on white crime. This is bullshit.
I was sitting here and like at the moment that you were saying it, there was part of me that's like, there's 33,000 people in there. Why didn't they overpower the guards at that point? But that I feel like this could you can kind of parallel that to like kind of what's going on, especially in the United States right now, is that you have so many people who are being oppressed, have their humanity stripped from them and being deprived what they need in order to survive. And you'd be like, why can't you just, there's only so many guards. Why can't you like stand up against them? But they kept them sick. They kept them emaciated and led with fear and deprivation. Mm-hmm. And that suppresses your populace from being able to do anything about it.
And they pit them against each other. Like that was one of the main things, like the guards and Ritz like let these gangs like roam, and like the Raiders became the most popular one and let them basically run the inside of the camp. Say they were doing the dirty work for them. So yeah, there's 33,000 men. You would think they would overpower the guards. There's like old men and boys, very few of them. But when you're all dying of diarrhea, dysentery, scurvy, and smallpox, like men would come in like with missing limbs, and they were just thrown into the open air prison and would just get infected and die. Like it's utterly just, it's crazy. Like it's sick. And that's why like a lot more Confederate officers should have been tried for war crimes and hanged. But like, definitely Nathan Bedford Forrest should have been. But like Henry Ritz is like, people who try to rehabilitate him are disgusting because this man was a monster.
I don't even see how you could try.
You can't.
But that's also coming from somebody who's like, who was never brought in by any of that like lost cause bullshit in the first place. But
I've heard lost causes be like, oh, he was like, my dad was like, oh, he was just dealt the hand that he had. And, the guards, they were also emaciated. And I was like, no, they weren't. Like, they fucking had everything they wanted. These men were starving to death. Like the guy was like, literally, I watched my friend starve to death. Like, that takes a long time to watch somebody starve to death. Like,
is it average of like 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2-3 weeks is just like to watch. And the guy was like, oh yeah, 8 of us were patients. The other 27 were just dead bodies. And it's like, what? Ugh.
The oldest sins in the newest ways.
Yeah, Mark.
That's a line from a movie.
I mean, yeah, Mark.
I don't know. This is in your neck of the woods.
Actually, that's south of me. So
That's true.
I can wash my hands.
The one sad thing, Kai, and you brought up a good point about like why didn't they rebel and stuff. Like when I was reading this book I got at the museum, a lot of them really thought they were going to get rescued, and there was like rumors would spread. And they're like, "Oh, Sherman's coming. Oh, we're going to get liberated any day now, any day now." And then when it finally got to the point where they're like, "They're not coming," it was already too late. So they were like, "Oh, any day now, we'll be liberated." And it was just, it's really sad. It was like reading a lot of the testimonials in here of like these guys thinking like, "Oh, any day now, Sherman's going to come in and we're going to be liberated." And it's like, no, this is not happening. The fucking thought of like leaving there and then coming back, that must have been horrifying. Like
do you ever think of like the psychological impact on these people if they were put in and they were put through these atrocities towards their body and their mind, but they managed to make it out and then live another 20 years? Like, what does that do to a mind at that point? Like, how, like, I kind of think this, like, if anybody watches true crime content or something like that, somebody who's gone through something horrific, especially like prolonged abuse or something like that, and then they just go on and it's like, oh yeah, and they have a job and they have kids and they married and all that. Like, how do you pick up and go after that? How do you have a semblance of a normal life after that? How, like, and that's how you end up with, like, you start to have the beginnings of understanding prolonged trauma and PTSD starting from kind of the Civil War era. That's, I mean, psychology was not even thought of as a science at that point, but it was starting to be collated and turned into something. That's where the study of it kind of starts, is from the Civil War, and the accompanying wars on the European side around the same period. But
I was gonna say, a real interesting case study on what you just said, Kai, is the Tim McLean story. So look up the Tim McLean story.
Do you want to give me a
nope?
Anything? Okay.
Everyone look up Tim McLean. Kai,
wait.
To kind of piggyback off what Tim McLean. There's a picture here of former Andersonville prisoners united in 1897 to drink from Providence Spring, and they still look just completely emaciated and weathered, like the sunken in cheeks and like the visible like jawbones that just look just like ghosts. I don't think you ever recover from that. I think that you just you somehow make it out and you never really fully recover from that. So yeah. You guys have any other thoughts? Missed y'all. We haven't done a history episode.
We haven't done an episode in a while, and we bookended them with two of the most depressing episodes we've ever done.
I know, right?
This one's not as depressing. It's just, white men. So
I know, it's definitely, the residential school one was the most depressing episode we've ever done. This one,
I win the Oppression Olympics.
Yeah, no, you definitely, Kai, you won the Oppression Olympics hand down. This one's sad, but this one is just sad because human suffering in general is horrible. But like, this is some sick shit. It's just like it's the fact that you can, like, the focal point, like, it all comes back to one man, right? Henry Ritz. That, like, the fact that there's just like one person that was that evil and sadistic that let this happen, that he could almost single-handedly like seal the fate of 13,900 POWs is crazy. And he was born in Switzerland. And he like
fucking Europeans.
I know, right? And they called it like the Ritz. They called it the Ritz Motel or whatever. Like they were just like, this. And like one chaplain like cussed him out. He was just like, and like Ritz said some shit. I forgot what all he said. Like he's like, "God damn your Yankee mercy," they like don't deserve it. Like it's one of these, it's crazy. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. And he pulled that, he was like probably the first person. Actually, when he was getting led to the gallows, I forgot what someone said, a reporter said something to him, and he said, I know why I'm here. I'm here because I followed orders. And it literally was like, dude, you're probably the first person. You're like, this starts the whole trend of I was only following orders. Like he really tried to pull that whole, I'm here because I was given orders and I obeyed them. It was like, all right, dude, like you're a jackass.
There's something that I'm thinking of, and maybe it is definitely like kind of minimal compared to everything else, but I'm just thinking of the human thoughts that would have been happening at this time. So your family member is a member of the Union Army. You find out eventually that they were captured and they were sent to this camp down in Georgia, and you want to help them. So in the 1860s, getting a hold of something like meat or fruit or something like that, and the time that it would take, the cost that it would have, the shipping time. I mean, at that point, it would have been like carting time, you know, maybe a train if you're lucky to get it all the way down south, and for it to just sit in a warehouse afterwards. It just like the amount of effort that would have to be put into any single care package, you know, without the advent of green grocers and Amazon or anything like that. You have to go out and get this shit yourself and put it together and send it down there, and it just sits and rots.
All for some fucking jackass letting it rot, and then some jackass, like, think of like the time and money it would have taken to like get jackets and to get clothes for these men, and then to have some fucking Johnny Reb jackass be the one that wears it. And like what needs to be noted, and what is disgusting, but I totally understand why, is that when I was talking about how like the bread was, the cornmeal was moldy and the meat was infested with maggots, they still ate it because they were that hungry. They were like, they tried to cook it out or they would just eat it raw. And the whole idea of like dehumanizing someone to the point where they're having to use their hands to cup soup or a hat or a shoe that probably has human waste, the shoe probably has human waste in it, to use that to collect the food is absolutely gross. It's disgusting. It's beyond. I can't even. The words fail me. But like a lot of there were escape attempts, and they're very elaborate escape attempts that didn't work. But a lot of the Union troops from West Virginia and Pennsylvania were coal miners, so they would try to tunnel out, and they did actually successfully tunnel out, and some of them escaped, but they didn't get like far enough into the tree line. And so, like, they were found, rounded up, because the Confederate the guards used slave-catching dogs and, like, sick the dogs on them, the bloodhounds, to track them down. And maybe, like, a few escaped. But the thing is that Andersonville is literally out in the middle of nowhere. So even if you do escape, there's nowhere to go. It's just, like, there's nowhere to go, and then they put you in the shackles in the stockade and leave you there until either you die there or they, like, oh, put you back in the camp. So like it was literally hell, and it fucking, there's no escape. There's no hope. There really was absolutely no hope at this place.
So at the end of this, I'm hearing never trust a fucking Central European man.
Exactly. Never trust a Swedish man.
I thought he was Swiss.
Swiss. That was my bad. Swiss. Yeah. Same thing.
Fuck the Swedes too, I guess.
We kind of harmonized there at our size.
We have two other hosts here. Tommy's completely checked out.
I'm surprised.
Do you have anything?
I don't care.
Not really. There's nothing of any worth that I have to add. So,
Mark, everything you have to say is worth something.
Wow, thank you for that.
You're collectively our son. Where it takes a village to raise a child.
No, this is just fucking weird, Nelson. I already claimed you as my brother. I cannot share a son with my brother.
No.
This is fucking weird.
Speaking of
you're gonna fight back against that stereotype there.
You could be a nephew. You are a nephew.
That works. A brother or a nephew works.
We are talking about the backwoods of Georgia.
I thought we were fighting Southern stereotypes. The fuck?
It's fine when we talk about it because we're Southern. It's one of those damn Yankees.
Internalized. I don't even know what you fucking call it. Talk about the South.
Oh man, Tommy, you okay?
No.
Tell us more about that woodchuck.
No, I'm not. Oh, it's great. Fantastic. 5.5 ABV. Made in the home of Bernie Sanders. Middlebury, Vermont. I really don't know where Bernie Sanders is from. I'm just,
When you're in this state, you talk so slow. It's like you're kind of like out of time. It's interesting.
I am out of time. I exist in between space.
And we've come back to the Langoliers. Look up in the sky if you see a ball sack eating the time.
Oh my God.
Be careful.
I'm a ball sack now.
Tell me that your Halloween costume this year is a fucking Langolier.
Are you saying my face wrinkly or something? Like something that
You said it. You said it.
Like,
yo, play that back. DJ, play that back.
Wait, this fucking podcast. Could you imagine the listeners just fucking total whiplash right now?
I can't wait till we're all together doing an episode.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we're supposed to be having an actual in-person episode with the entire fucking cast coming up later this month. And Batman might be there as well. So
Batman.
But yeah, if
pow,
I don't understand. Do you know who Adam West is, Mark?
Yeah, I do.
Nerd.
Mark knows Adam West is the mayor from Quahog and Family Guy. Adam Weed.
How dare you imply that I watch Family Guy?
I'm sorry.
Which one is the better cultural one to pick? Is it like the original Batman on TV, or is it like a Family Guy?
The original Batman.
The original Batman. Okay. Hands down. Nerd.
Can you imagine? Y'all realize that like there are people out there that actually like us? I still find that hard to believe that like we have fans and there's people out there
like us
that have their.
You're very mean, and it shows.
But like, there's people out. They have their favorite hosts,
and they actually listen. Shows that you're very.
Yeah, I'm the least favorite
because you're mean.
I am mean.
You're evil. You're like King.
What's happening right now?
You're King Diamond.
Is this a fucking intervention? What's happening?
But fucking like, there's people out there. I still can't like. There's people out there that are like probably actually really like us. And they're like, oh my, like, well, I'm the least favorite host, but like, oh my, I love Tyler, I love Kai, Tommy, and then they're like, oh, that Mark fella's pretty cool too. Like
Nelson, you have right now. You have two people who have gone from fans to being on the show right now. On this call.
Wait, Tommy.
Not only that.
Wait, time out. Maybe three. Tommy, did you ever listen to an episode before you became a host?
Let me tell you something. I haven't listened to a single one of these episodes. You're
the one who edits them.
Still doesn't listen to them.
It's just random cuts. None of us listen. We'll never know.
There's no cuts.
I don't listen to none of that shit. You crazy? I got shit to do.
I'm sorry. We know about the cuts when we've had rough fucking episodes. We know that there are cuts, and Tommy sacrifices his time to do that.
That's why Tommy's fucked up all the time, because he has to deal with all the edit.
Yeah,
you are personally responsible for this.
Everyone's weathered
to like 10 hours of cringe. You know, like every episode.
I will make this a veiled reference. But I do remember looking on one of your TikToks recently, Nelson, that a certain person that we have had contact with through this show commented on one of them, and I had to really haul myself in from saying anything.
Oh yeah, so someone tagged that I have blocked, and I was like, oh okay.
All right. I'm gonna edit this out. Who the fuck are we talking about?
Oh, you're not editing out shit. Fuck you. At Dixieland, the Proletariat.
No, who are we talking about? I'm not gonna edit it out.
Just after we're done recording, we'll talk about it. It is funny because guys said something really fucking funny to me about it. At Dixieland, the Proletariat, we live south the rise of the game this time for the right reasons, those being worker-owned means of production, decolonization, and self-determination for all oppressed peoples. Make sure to click on our link tree in the show notes to find all of our social media. And if you're really, really lucky, you might even find Tommy on Twitch. You get a magical invite to Uncle Tommy's Twitch cabin. His name idea, not mine. Please don't cancel me. We are coming to you from the birthplace of civil rights movement, Montgomery, Alabama, as well as jolly old England and wherever Mark is. We would like to recognize we're recording on occupied land that rightfully belongs to the Muskogee Nation. Tyler's not here. So, Mark.
I can't do it. Y'all gotta get a sound clip.
No.
I can't do it. I can't do it the same.
Mark,
it doesn't hit the same.
Come on, Mark.
Come on, Mark. Do it.
I had two margarita like lime things. I can't do it.
You do it.
I can't remember the order of the words.
It doesn't matter. Just say whatever comes to your mind.
Whatever comes to
Yeah.
No, do the saying. You got to do it, Mark.
Do it.
All right. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll see you next time.
It was so cute.
Boo.
Shut up. Shut up and end this fucking recording so we can talk about this fucker.
All right, it's ended.
No, it's not. It's still
we will know. End the recording.
Tommy.
The recording has stopped.
Shut the fuck up.